Confidence is not something you are born with, and it is not something you wait for. Confidence is something you earn. Most people are waiting to feel confident before they act, but confidence never comes that way. It comes after you act. Life rewards motion, not intention. You don't wake up one morning suddenly fearless and unstoppable. You wake up one morning realizing that you've kept promises to yourself long enough, that you can trust who you are becoming. Confidence is simply the byproduct of integrity with yourself. And once you understand that, once you stop chasing confidence and start building it, no person, no failure, no setback can take it away from you. Unstoppable confidence begins with the simplest, but most overlooked habit in life: keeping the promises you make to yourself. Most people believe confidence comes from achievements, praise, or bold personality traits. But in reality, confidence is born in private moments when no one is watching. Every time you tell yourself you will do something, wake up early, exercise, read, work on your goal, and then fail to follow through, you send a quiet but powerful message to your mind: I cannot be trusted. Over time, this message becomes a belief, and that belief turns into insecurity. On the other hand, every small promise you keep strengthens your inner foundation and builds self-respect, which is the true source of confidence. Confidence is not about being fearless, it is about being reliable. When you are reliable to yourself, you develop a sense of certainty that cannot be shaken by external opinions or temporary failures. You begin to trust your decisions because you know your actions will support them. This trust does not appear overnight, just as wealth does not appear overnight. It is accumulated through small, consistent deposits. Reading 10 pages a day, keeping your word about showing up on time, finishing what you start. These are the small actions that quietly shape your self-image. Eventually, your mind stops questioning whether you can do something, because history has already proven that you will. Many people make the mistake of setting goals that are too large too soon, then breaking those commitments and wondering why they lack confidence. The issue is not ambition, it is scale. Confidence grows faster when promises are realistic and manageable. It is far better to commit to 10 minutes of focused effort every day and keep that promise than to commit to 2 hours and quit after 3 days. The mind values consistency more than intensity. When you start small and stay consistent, you build a pattern of success, and patterns shape identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. There is a powerful psychological shift that happens when you honor your word to yourself. Your internal dialogue changes. Instead of debating whether you should act, you act automatically because you have conditioned yourself to respond to your own decisions with obedience. This reduces mental friction, hesitation, and self-doubt. The confident person does not spend excessive time arguing with themselves. They decide and move forward. That clarity is not talent. It is trained through repeated follow-through on small commitments. Keeping promises to yourself also builds emotional stability. When life becomes difficult, and it will, the person who has practiced self-trust does not collapse under pressure. They have evidence, built over time, that they can endure discomfort and remain consistent. This evidence becomes an inner anchor. Confidence is not optimism. It is certainty grounded in experience. You are confident not because you believe everything will go well, but because you know you can handle whatever comes. Every broken promise weakens that anchor, while every kept promise strengthens it. That is why self-respect and confidence grow together. You cannot separate the two. When you respect yourself enough to do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, you send a signal to your subconscious that you matter. And when you believe you matter, you stand taller, speak clearer, and take responsibility for your life. In the end, unstoppable confidence is built quietly, almost invisibly, through daily acts of integrity with yourself. It is not about dramatic change or external validation. It is about becoming someone you can depend on. Once you achieve that, confidence is no longer something you chase. It becomes a natural reflection of who you are. Confidence deepens when discipline becomes a daily practice, rather than an occasional effort. Many people wait to feel confident before they take control of their habits. But discipline works in the opposite direction. You do not become disciplined because you feel strong. You feel strong because you become disciplined. Every act of discipline is a quiet declaration of leadership over your own life. It tells your mind that you are not a victim of moods, circumstances, or temporary emotions. Over time, This sense of control transforms into confidence that cannot be borrowed from others and cannot be taken away by failure. Discipline simplifies life. When you remove daily decisions about whether to act, you remove hesitation and self-doubt. The disciplined person does not wake up wondering if they should do what needs to be done. They have already decided. That decision has been made in advance. When the mind was clear and calm, confidence grows when decisions are made once and honored consistently. The more you rely on discipline, the less you rely on motivation. And motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes, but discipline stays. And where discipline stays, confidence follows. There is a powerful shift that happens when you do what is difficult by choice. Most people avoid discomfort, and avoidance slowly erodes their belief in themselves. Each avoided task becomes evidence that they are weak or incapable. Discipline reverses this pattern. When you willingly face discomfort, waking up early, practicing when you're tired, working when no one is watching, you prove to yourself that you can handle difficulty. Confidence is not built in comfort, it is built in resistance. Every disciplined action becomes proof that you are stronger than your excuses. Discipline also builds confidence because it creates momentum. One completed task leads naturally to another. Small wins stack up, and with each win, your belief expands. You begin to expect progress from yourself. This expectation is powerful. The confident person expects themselves to follow through, and because they expect it, they deliver. Over time, this becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Discipline fuels progress, progress fuels belief, and belief fuels even greater discipline. Another overlooked benefit of discipline is clarity. When your habits are strong, your mind is calm. Chaos in daily routines creates chaos in thinking, and chaotic thinking produces doubt. Discipline brings order, and order creates peace. A calm mind is a confident mind. You think more clearly, speak more deliberately, and act more decisively. This clarity is not loud or aggressive. It is steady and grounded. People feel it when you walk into a room, not because you demand attention, but because you are certain of yourself. Discipline also separates identity from emotion. The disciplined person understands that feelings are temporary, but standards are permanent. They do not ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" They ask, "Is this who I said I would be?" That shift is critical. Confidence grows when your actions are guided by identity rather than emotion. When you live by standards, you no longer feel fragile. Your confidence is no longer dependent on mood, praise, or external validation. As discipline becomes part of who you are, your posture changes, not just physically, but mentally. You stop second guessing yourself because you have evidence of consistency. You stop fearing challenges because you trust your work ethic. Discipline does not make life easy, but it makes you strong. And when you know you are strong, confidence becomes natural. It is no longer something you try to display. It is something you quietly embody through the way you live each day. Confidence expands as your level of skill increases. At its core, insecurity is often nothing more than uncertainty about your own ability. When you are unsure of what you can do, your mind fills the gap with doubt. This is why true confidence cannot be separated from competence. You may convince yourself temporarily with positive thinking, but lasting confidence comes from knowing, through experience, that you can perform. Skill replaces guessing with certainty, and certainty is the foundation of belief in yourself. Many people want confidence without preparation. They hope courage will appear at the moment of challenge, but courage is unreliable when it is not supported by ability. Preparation, on the other hand, is dependable. When you have practiced, studied, and refined your craft, your nervousness decreases naturally. You do not need to pretend to be confident, because the work you have done speaks for you. The quiet assurance that comes from competence is stronger than the loud confidence that comes from bravado. Skill building requires humility, and humility is a hidden strength. When you are willing to admit that you do not yet know enough, you open the door to growth. The person who refuses to learn remains stuck in the same cycle of doubt. The person who commits to learning, even slowly, begins to feel more capable with each step forward. Confidence grows alongside improvement. Every new skill learned, every mistake corrected, every repetition completed adds weight to your sense of self-belief. Another powerful effect of skill is the reduction of fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty. When you do not know what will happen, or whether you can handle it, fear grows. Skill reduces that uncertainty. The more familiar you are with a situation, the calmer you become within it. This is why experienced individuals appear relaxed under pressure. It is not because they lack fear, but because they have trained enough to know what to do, even when fear appears. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of ability in spite of it. Skill also gives you independence from external validation. When you know you are capable, you do not need constant reassurance. Praise becomes appreciated rather than required. Criticism becomes information rather than a personal attack. This emotional independence strengthens confidence, because your sense of worth is no longer fragile. You are grounded in what you know you can do, not in what others think you can do. Developing skill also builds patience, and patience strengthens confidence. When you understand that mastery takes time, you stop rushing your progress. You no longer panic at temporary failure, because you recognize it as part of the learning process. Each setback becomes a lesson rather than a verdict. This mindset protects your confidence during difficult periods, when many people give up. You remain steady, because your confidence is tied to growth, not perfection. As your skills improve, your standards rise. You begin to expect more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of respect. You prepare more thoroughly, speak more carefully, and act more decisively. This self-respect feeds confidence naturally. You trust your judgment because it has been shaped by learning and experience. In time, confidence becomes quiet and composed. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, because you know where your strengths lie. Skill has given you certainty, and certainty has given you calm. That calm presence is the mark of true confidence. The kind that is built, not imagined, and strengthened every day through deliberate learning and practice. Confidence strengthens the moment you stop negotiating with your own weakness. Inside every person is a voice that seeks comfort, delay, and the easy path. That voice sounds reasonable, logical, even protective, but it slowly robs you of belief in yourself. Each time you listen to it, you reinforce the idea that discomfort is dangerous and effort is optional. Over time, this pattern creates hesitation, self-doubt, and a fragile sense of confidence that collapses under pressure. Unstoppable confidence begins when you recognize this voice and refuse to bargain with it. Most hesitation is not a lack of ability, it is excess thinking. The mind will always find a reason to wait, more information, better timing, improved conditions. But confidence is built through action, not contemplation. The longer you delay, the more power fear gains. Action, even imperfect action, interrupts doubt. When you move immediately after deciding, you prevent the mind from creating excuses. This habit of swift action trains your nervous system to associate decision-making with movement rather than anxiety. The confident person understands that clarity comes after action, not before it. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. Readiness is the reward for starting, not the requirement. When you act before you feel confident, you send a powerful message to yourself. I am capable of moving forward even without certainty. This message reshapes your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs ideal conditions and start seeing yourself as someone who adapts and figures things out along the way. There is also a deeper discipline involved in refusing to negotiate with weakness. Emotional leadership. Emotions are real, but they are not commands. Fatigue, fear, and doubt can be acknowledged without being obeyed. When you act despite them, you strengthen your identity as the leader of your own behavior. This leadership builds confidence because you no longer feel controlled by internal states. You realize that feelings rise and fall, but your standards remain steady. Immediate action also builds momentum, and momentum is a powerful ally of confidence. One step forward makes the next step easier. Each completed action reduces the mental weight of the task and increases belief in your ability to continue. Momentum shifts your focus from fear of failure to progress in motion. Confidence thrives in motion and weakens in stagnation. The longer you stay still, the louder doubt becomes. Refusing to negotiate with weakness does not mean being reckless or ignoring wisdom. It means distinguishing between thoughtful planning and avoidance disguised as preparation. The confident individual plans deliberately, then commits fully. They do not repeatedly reopen decisions. Once a decision is made, it is executed. This decisiveness creates inner peace. When you trust yourself to follow through, your mind relaxes, and that relaxation expresses itself as confidence. Over time, this practice reshapes your relationship with fear. Fear loses its authority because it no longer dictates your actions. You may still feel it, but it no longer stops you. Each time you act despite fear, you weaken its influence. Confidence grows not because fear disappears, but because you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. Eventually, confidence becomes automatic. You decide faster, move sooner, and recover quicker from setbacks. You no longer waste energy on internal debates. By refusing to negotiate with weakness, you train yourself to act from intention rather than impulse. That consistency builds a deep, stable confidence, one rooted in action, resilience, and self-leadership rather than temporary emotion. Confidence weakens when perfection becomes the standard. Many people lose belief in themselves not because they fail, but because they demand flawlessness. When the goal is perfection, progress is never enough, and the mind is constantly focused on what is missing rather than what is improving. This creates frustration, discouragement, and self-doubt. Confidence grows when progress is recognized and measured honestly, not when perfection is demanded. The human mind needs evidence of movement. When you acknowledge improvement, even small improvement, you reinforce the belief that your effort matters. Progress tells the mind, I am getting better, and that belief fuels confidence. Perfection tells the mind, I am not enough yet, and that belief drains it. The confident person understands that growth is gradual and uneven. Some days move forward quickly, others slowly, but movement in any direction is still movement. Measuring progress shifts your focus from outcome to effort. You begin to value consistency instead of instant results. This perspective is powerful because effort is within your control, while outcomes are not always predictable. When your confidence is tied to effort, it becomes stable. You no longer feel defeated by temporary setbacks because you judge yourself by how faithfully you showed up, not by whether everything went perfectly. Progress-based thinking also protects confidence during difficult phases. Every meaningful pursuit includes periods where results are delayed. If your confidence depends on visible success, it will collapse during those periods. But if your confidence is built on progress, on learning, practice, and persistence, it survives. You remain encouraged because you understand that unseen progress is still progress. Roots grow before fruit appears. Another important shift occurs when you stop comparing your progress to someone else's perfection. Comparison distorts reality. You see someone else's highlights and measure them against your behind the scenes struggle. This habit quietly destroys confidence. Measuring progress instead of perfection brings your focus back to your own path. You judge yourself against who you were yesterday, not against who someone else appears to be today. This creates peace, and peace strengthens confidence. Recognizing progress also builds momentum. When you notice improvement, you are more likely to continue. The mind responds positively to acknowledgement. It becomes willing to endure discomfort because it sees evidence that effort leads somewhere. This willingness is crucial for long-term confidence. A person who feels encouraged continues. A person who feels defeated withdraws. Progress-based confidence also encourages learning. When perfection is the goal, mistakes feel like failure. When progress is the goal, mistakes become feedback. This changes your emotional response to setbacks. Instead of shame, you feel curiosity. Instead of self-criticism, you feel adjustment. This mindset keeps confidence intact even when things go wrong, because failure no longer defines you, it instructs you. As you consistently measure progress, your self-talk changes. You stop saying, I'm not good enough, and start saying, I'm improving. That shift may seem small, but it has a profound effect on confidence. Improvement implies potential, and potential creates hope. Confidence thrives on hope, the belief that tomorrow can be better, because today is moving in the right direction. Over time, measuring progress reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who grows, learns, and adapts. This identity is resilient. It does not collapse under imperfection. It grows stronger through experience. Confidence rooted in progress is calm, patient, and sustainable. It allows you to move forward without fear of being imperfect, because you know improvement is always possible, as long as you keep going. Confidence becomes truly unshakable when it is anchored in a clear personal philosophy. Without guiding principles, a person is pulled in every direction by moods, opinions, and circumstances. One good day brings confidence, one bad comment destroys it. This emotional instability is not a lack of strength, but a lack of structure. When you know what you believe, what you stand for, and how you have decided to live, confidence no longer depends on external approval. It becomes internal, steady, and self-directed. A personal philosophy acts as an inner compass. It tells you how to respond before life asks the question. When values are clear, decisions become simpler. You are no longer trapped in endless doubt, because you are not inventing standards in the moment. You are applying standards you have already chosen. This reduces mental strain and builds confidence because certainty replaces confusion. The more consistently you live by your principles, the more you trust your judgment. Many people feel insecure not because they are incapable, but because they are inconsistent. They change their behavior depending on who they are with, or what situation they are in. This inconsistency creates inner conflict, and inner conflict weakens confidence. When your actions align with your values, there is no internal resistance. You may still face challenges, but you face them with integrity. Integrity builds self-respect, and self-respect is the backbone of confidence. A clear philosophy also protects you from emotional reactions. When something goes wrong, you do not panic because your response is guided by principle rather than impulse. When something goes right, you do not become arrogant because your values keep you grounded. This emotional balance is a quiet form of confidence. It is not dramatic, but it is powerful. People trust those who are steady, and you begin to trust yourself for the same reason. Living by principles also gives meaning to effort. Discipline, learning, and persistence stop feeling like punishment and start feeling like expressions of who you are. You are no longer forcing yourself to act. You are being consistent with your identity. This alignment removes resistance and strengthens confidence. When your behavior matches your beliefs, action feels natural rather than forced. Another important effect of personal philosophy is independence from opinion. The world is full of noise, advice, criticism, trends, and expectations. Without a philosophy, you absorb that noise and lose direction. With a philosophy, you filter it. You can listen without being shaken. You can adjust without losing yourself. This independence does not make you stubborn, it makes you grounded. And grounded people are confident because they are not easily moved. A strong philosophy also gives you resilience during failure. When results are poor, you do not question your worth because your worth is not tied to outcomes. You evaluate performance, adjust strategy, and continue. Confidence remains intact because it is rooted in character, not success. You know that as long as you live by your principles, you are on the right path, even when progress is slow. Over time, living by a personal philosophy creates inner alignment. Thoughts, actions, and values move in the same direction. This alignment produces calm, and calm produces confidence. You no longer seek reassurance because you are guided from within. That is the deepest form of confidence, not loud, not arrogant, but stable and enduring. When confidence is built on principles, it does not rise and fall with circumstance. It stands firm, because it is supported by who you have chosen to be. Confidence is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not seek validation. It is quiet, grounded, and unshakable. It is built one disciplined day at a time. Do the work. Keep the promises. Grow the skills. And one day you will realize, you are no longer trying to be confident. You are confident.